And we are recording this meeting this evening for people who are unable to attend, so that they can go back and listen to the questions and hear the information that's being presented. Again, thanks so much for coming out. And let me just walk through the calendar over the next several weeks. You should have received information today about choices when our school board approved our reopening plan back in August. We did say that some of these natural transition breaks, we would allow people to make some changes. There were many people that chose our cyber school. We have about 1,100 elementary families in our cyber program right now. That was set up and designed for people who maybe didn't want to be going in and out or having some remote or some time in. They needed some more flexible scheduling. So that was set up a little bit differently than our current remote 2.0 program that we have. But this is one of those natural times, natural breaks. So for the cyber people, information that went out, you get a clarifying survey piece from Rebecca Everly, the cyber principal. All we need to know is if you're planning to leave the cyber school. I think the way that was set up this afternoon, for those of you that filled it out, is, are you planning to stay? We just need to know who is planning to leave cyber and go into the hybrid plan into our schools. So so that you'll get a clarifying.
Hey, come on, can we stop playing?
Unmute yourself.
No.
And again, everybody, please make sure that your mics are muted. So here's our calendar for the elementary. That survey data that went out for elementary, the deadline is this Tuesday to tell us if you are going to do a couple of things. One, if you're going to unenroll from the cyber program and go into our hybrid program. We need to know that for scheduling and planning purposes. We also have in that part of that survey for people that if you decide to stay remote, if you're in remote 2.0 right now and you don't want to go into the hybrid, you want to stay remote, you have that option to stay in the remote. Again, we need to know that because we've got to make sure we're staffing appropriately. We've got to make sure we have the proper number of students in our classes. And that has to do with how we schedule Group A and Group B. I'll talk about that in just a second. But our principals need to take some time and make sure they're planning appropriately so that we can still get the 6 feet of social distancing that's currently required under the Department of Health guidelines. So that deadline is the first deadline that comes up on the 6th. The 12th, and some people have sent some information in about why do we have the day off of school. This is a professional development day for our staff. This was scheduled, whether we were in a pandemic or not. We typically schedule some professional learning days for our staff throughout the year. This was already scheduled pre-pandemic. So that is a day where our teachers will be planning and preparing and getting ready to receive students for the following week. These 4 days here, they are going to be, we're still in our remote 2.0 plan at this point. They are half days in the morning. So the schedule will just be the morning schedule, and the principals and teachers will send out what classes, what links will be taking place. Much like, again, pre-pandemic, where we may have had some half days of early dismissal for some teacher training. We are going to designate these 4 days for teacher training in the afternoon in order to prepare and plan. The planning for our teachers with a hybrid is much more difficult than our current virtual because they are planning lessons for both groups. And they have to find ways to incorporate both of those groups. We do have, in the summer, we did run some pilots when we were planning for hybrid in the summer. And we did ask some parents to volunteer and bring kids in, and we did some sample lessons. We are doing some of that this week and also next week. We have some secondary ones scheduled next week. So we have about 20 or 25 different classroom teachers around the district at all levels. They are actually doing some of these pilots where kids are remoting in, some kids are coming into school, and we're going through some of the school protocols to make sure that we have those down as clear as possible before we start. The 19th, is our first day. And because we are now, we have new protocols. We have students that have not been in school yet. So the first 2 days we have Group A will be coming in, and that is last names with A to K. Now, some people have asked questions about, well, what if some of our family members have different last names? We have some blended families out there. We will keep families together. Our building principals also, when they look at some of their grade levels, they may have some of their classes that are front loaded in the front end of the alphabet, or they may have some that are kind of back loaded at the back end of the alphabet, and they're going to be out of balance, not able to get social distancing. So they may be contacting some individual families to flip the A and the B day. Our principals at elementary are coordinating that with secondary principals. All the A days and B days will be the same across the school district. If you have students in multiple levels, we want to make sure that every day is an A day for your family, whether you're in elementary, middle, or high school, or a B day for elementary, middle, or high school. So we have coordinated that. We've done the schedule out October, November, and we're working on this through December. If we have to continue this through the entire year, all of the A and B days even out. Some people are going through and counting the days. If there's one more or two more, they will eventually all even out. The middle day of the week, Wednesday, in some cases this may not happen if we don't have a 5-day week, but the middle day of the week is a day that will be all students will be in remote learning, which is currently what we're doing now. For those of you that are in remote learning, for those of you in cyber coming into remote, this will be a lot of synchronous lessons, very similar to what you're seeing now in our online remote 2.0 program. Our teachers, as we met with teachers for implementing all of this and planning this, they felt like it was important to get all of the kids together at least one day a week. And because of the social distancing guidelines, we can't bring them all in physically. We can bring them all in remotely one day a week as a class. Then on the Thursday and Friday, the B students will come in during this week. Focus will just be on the B students in the morning. The A students will not have school. And this day, if I failed to mention, the Group A kids come in on Monday and Tuesday. The B students will not have school or any remoting in requirements. This, in essence, is we are able to do this and still meet our number of hours and days. We have 2 additional days built into our calendar already. So we are using 2 of those days so that we can focus for this first week with all the kids, these 2 days, Group A, to focus on all the protocols and safety protocols and procedures in the building. And then these 2 days, Group B will do the same thing. So teachers for this week will be designing lessons focusing on this group. They will repeat that again for this group on these days. And then they will be doing all class lessons on the Wednesday remotely during that first week. October 26th then is when we would begin our Group A comes in. They're in person in school. Group B is going to remote in. So they will be logging into the links. Teachers have webcams in the classrooms, and depending on the grade level, depending on what that schedule is, some of that may be more asynchronous, some of that may be all synchronous, and that's very similar to what many of the teachers are doing now in terms of their planning based on whatever the age of the kids are. So Monday and Tuesday of that week, you have Group A coming in. Group B will be remoting in and getting their lessons online and watching the classroom teacher and getting information and directions from the classroom teacher. And again, we are piloting some of that this week, and we're starting to get feedback from those teachers. I have a meeting next week with all of the pilot teachers to solidify some of that feedback. The Wednesday then becomes all students on a remote, so all students are expected to be on the schedule remoting in. Then on the Thursday and Friday of that week, we have Group B will be in person, and the Group A children will be remoting in. That schedule continues through November. Tuesday is an election day. That's a day that was already scheduled for our our staff development, professional development day. So that was pre-pandemic already in there. Again, that'll be a planning day where teachers can plan and make any revisions they need to make as they move ahead. Followed by remote, and then we go back into our BA and AB schedule. We also have parent conferences in there. Principals will send more information about those parent conferences. Those were already scheduled on the calendar. So the schedule is a little bit different on those parent conference days right before the Thanksgiving break. And then no school these 3 days for Thanksgiving. 1 day is for conferences, and this is the Thanksgiving break. So we put out through October and November, putting out that information in terms of what that schedule will look like for the next 2 months. We actually have it pretty much done through the year, and we will put that up as we finish the month of October with the next several months that are out there. You know, hopefully we can get everybody back in school. Maybe by November we get a vaccine. Maybe we get I don't know, we get case counts down to zero, and we're able to bring students in. We cannot bring all the kids in until these social distancing guidelines of 6 feet are reduced. Once they go to 3 feet, we are able to bring all the kids in each day in school and get that distancing that's in there. So that is our calendar as we move through that. Let me go through some of the questions that I have heard, and I'll answer. I think I can get through most of these, and if there's some other ones, we have some people monitoring the chat. We will try to get to them. If we don't have answers, we will get responses for you. A lot of this information is up on the website. Frequently asked questions, some the general ones. I know that people have questions about a child's place, childcare. We have information about that. People have questions about lunches, and I'll go through some of those questions here. But all of that information is up on our website under our reopening and return to hybrid page. So one of the questions that came in about special areas, how will they be scheduled? For the first 2 weeks in this model, we are moving our specials. Library, art, music will be coming into the classrooms. We are doing that just to make sure we've stabilized all the space areas that we need. If we need additional classroom spaces to get the social distancing. The phys ed classes will be in the gym and sometimes outside. So the way that specials may work, particularly with phys ed, it's kind of hard to take a webcam outside. Those may become an asynchronous class, and you have some of that now going on with our remote and with our cyber programs, where students will then have to do those with an asynchronous model. Another question is, can parents return to school? If there's an improvement, can people stay in remote? Yes, you may choose to stay and remain in remote. But that is one part of the survey question that we need to know. If you want to keep your children home, you're in remote now, you want to keep children home, we need to know that, because that may make a difference as to whether we need to change some of the A to K and L to M to balance out those classes. So that's why that information is important for us to get as soon as possible next week by October 6th. So if you want to remain in remote, yes, you can do that. Another question related to that is, well, can we come back into the A and B schedule? Yes, you can do that. Somebody asked a question, can you just kind of flip-flop every day on that? No, we do need to know if you're planning to come in, because again, we may have to plan a larger classroom depending on if we can get the 6 feet of social distancing. But we will need a couple of days notice if you decide to do that, just so we can plan appropriately and accordingly. For most of those, it probably is not a problem, but having never done this before, I want to make sure that we have at least a couple of days to plan. So yes, we will be able to entertain some of that. Will students in learning support and special education questions? We are planning to have, right now we do have some of our low incidence, high needs special education children in 5 days a week. They will continue to be in 5 days a week. We are also planning to bring some additional special education children in for 4 days a week. There is a meeting on Monday for our special education parents, and our pupil services department will send more information out with some specifics on that. But we are planning to address some of the needs of the special education children to get them in more than just 2 days a week. Will kids go out to recess? Yes, we are planning for our students to go out to recess. That's part of our first 2 days of walking through what does recess look like, making sure that kids are having being socially distant. Outside is obviously, according to CDC and Department of Health guidelines, you got much bigger air circulation. So yes, we do want to have kids go outside. Days that students are not in the building, are they zooming in? Yes, they will be zooming into class. They will be getting their assignments. Some of the teachers, I would imagine, and that's some of the pilots that were going on yesterday and today, as they treat the children. Right now, they put them in Zoom breakout rooms. They may have them in some breakout rooms, whereas the kids in class, obviously, are going to be in class as they don't have to go in a Zoom room. In fact, we will encourage the students when they're in school not to be on a Zoom link, because the Zoom link and the Zoom link traffic we are holding for the students coming in from outside and zooming in. Some rumors about the days, those again, the A and the B days, I walked through that. Can people choose an A or a B group? We're gonna assign those alphabetically. And again, there may be some need to move some of them, but we are planning to keep families together. Transportation, will that be provided? Yes, that will be provided. There were some questions about transportation. Why we are allowed to have 48 students on a bus. Kids will be required to wear masks while on that bus, and that's a guideline that has come out from the Department of Health. We have a special way to load those buses, but yes, we can get up to 48 students on a bus. The principals will want to know who's planning to drive their children to school. In the summer, we sent out a survey. When we sent out that survey to people that were with us in the summer, that was when we were bringing all students in at 3 feet. We needed to reduce our bus loads in order to meet those guidelines on the buses. With half the kids coming in on these A and B days, we don't necessarily need that. We needed about 40% of the riders to opt to drive their children. With half the students already out of there, we're at about 50%. So as a district, we don't need a survey on that, but building principals in order to plan, we'll be sending out information to parents at your respective buildings so that they know how many kids to plan for, how to stage that arrival, and how to make sure that they're arriving safely with all the social distancing pieces. So that will be at a building level question. Some people asked about the in-service days. Is it possible to move those? Those again were scheduled. The 2 days that we have, they were all previously scheduled. Is there, regarding some special education students on 4 days, I think I addressed that with the guidelines. We will have, yes, some additional special education students. Many, if not most of our students with IEPs, we are making plans to accommodate them for 4 days a week. And again, there was a meeting on Monday, October 5th at 6 o'clock. If you haven't received a link for that, you will receive a link for that meeting to walk through some of the special education requirements. Some questions about testing. Is there how does that work if there's a positive case? We have a section on the website that has all that information on that. We did have the director from the Chester County Department of Health, Gene Kasner, was at our school board meeting on Tuesday evening to answer questions about the guidelines for the Chester County Department of Health. And we are following those health department guidelines. They do the contact tracing. So if there is a confirmed positive case, the health department does the contact tracing. They would then notify anybody that has come in contact with the person that had tested positive, and that contact tracing comes directly from the health department. If there are suspected cases, we do some of the internal notifications of that. If there's a suspected case, we may ask some people to quarantine until that is confirmed. The recommendation for closing a school by the health department is if there are two cases that are linked together, then they would consider that a time to either close a classroom or a school. And that would be for probably a 14-day period. We take the lead from the Department of Health. At that point, if we were closing a school, that school would go into full remote learning, which is another reason why we still keep that remote piece open on Wednesdays. So again, that we're following the Department of Health guidance on that. If we have suspected cases in a confirmed case in a school, we will notify the entire school and let you know that we have, much like we've done with pertussis and chickenpox. There are letters from the Department of Health that are drafted to notify parents about that, and then the Department of Health contacts people if there's any direct contact. I will tell you that we have gone out. About 80% of the school districts in the state of Pennsylvania are either operating full all-in or some version of a hybrid model. And we have gone out to visit many of those schools. We have called many of those schools. No school district, and they've been opening for 5 or 6 weeks, depending on when they started, has had to go and close. There have been some schools that closed shortly, temporarily, a classroom, but there have been no school districts that have had to close because of large outbreaks. We have been following these contact tracing and these social distancing guidelines through the summer. We've been running extended school year programs for our low incident special needs children in the summer. We have been running our sports teams practices with social distancing through the summer. We have had 4 different sports teams where we had 1 student test positive. Those teams were then quarantined for 14 days. After the 14 days, there were no cases. They resumed their practices, and those were from each of our 3 high schools has had 1 team go through that. We have had 1 suspected case in one of our child care centers that was closed for, I believe, 2 days, 2 or 3 days, until the test came back. It came back negative, and it opened up immediately. So we are following those protocols. We have had to use those protocols, and those will continue as we get our schools reopened. Do we have an option to fully stay at home? That answer is yes. I think I responded to that one. Will all grades have different lunch times at home, since they are now they have some synchronous and asynchronous kids in the building? Yeah, lunchtime is going to change. It's going to change a little bit, and we'll have schedules out there for each of our levels as to what that looks like. They will. Right now, we did across the board the same lunchtime, same schedules, but that is going to change because we are now going to have to rotate kids through our cafeteria at 6 feet apart, social distancing. So we can't feed all of the kids at one time. We're going to have to run lunches at different schedules, much like we do in non-pandemic time. And principals will be communicating what those schedules will look like. Can we come back to hybrid if we stay in remote? Yeah, again, we just need some days to know that for planning. How do families go about transferring from cyber into remote or hybrid? That again, that should be the survey that went out. We want to know about that. If you have more questions, I would contact Dr. Eberly, our cyber school administrator, and she can certainly walk you through that process. Here's one: if you're going to cyber school and we move to remote, do we have to go to school in person? Can we continue learning online? Yes, I think we've addressed that one. Will children have to carry all their supplies? Here's one that's a little bit different. Back and forth from school every day. If not, what will they need to bring in? Students will need to use their own supplies. We are not going to be sharing pens and pencils, so we want to make sure that kids have their own supplies. We sent supplies home and materials home. I know that you had to schedule those to pick them up. I know I had to do that for my elementary child. And the computer devices, the kids will need to bring them to school and bring them home, because obviously they're going to need to access when they're at home. If students don't have supplies, we will provide those supplies for them to make sure that they have their own sets of supplies. How are teachers going to do this with kids teaching at home and kids teaching in person, face to face? Again, we've been working with our staff teams for the last 2.5 weeks. We did start doing some of this in the summer, and we do have these pilots running. But again, depending on the age of the child, that may be more synchronous, kids zooming in, watching the lesson. The webcams that we have are wider angle webcams, so they can actually see the teachers. All of our classrooms have whiteboards, so that as teachers are presenting information to the class on a whiteboard, that whiteboard is then channeled into the Zoom link, so kids will see on the Zoom link what the kids see in the classroom on that whiteboard. So some of the technology that we have in the school that we're currently not using is some technology that we will be using. Will my student be able to go back hybrid? I think we've answered that one. Child's Place, will that be available for days when students will not be in class? Yes, a Child's Place is currently operating. We are working to expand Child's Place to all of our buildings, so that yes, if you need to have a before or after care program, or you need a during the day care program for the days that you are not in school, we are working with the Child's Place to make that available in our schools, just as it is now. Question here about supplies. I think I responded to that one. Some questions about peanut allergies with cafeteria. None of the food that we will be serving in those cafeterias will contain any peanut material. Some people have sent me information about the CDC and website survival rates of young children. Yes, there's a lot of information out there from the CDC. There's a lot of information out there from the CHOP Policy Lab. We have a lot of that information up on our website. We have been following that. One of the frustrating aspects of this entire process has been the different guidance that we get from these different organizations. We are following, as all the Chester County school districts are following, the Chester County Health Department guidance to bring students back into hybrid. Will they be allowed to go on a rolling basis? I think we've answered that, in and out. No, we don't want a rolling basis. On one day you're out remote, and one day you're in hybrid. You can start remote if you'd like. We want to know that so we can plan. If you'd like to then rejoin the group that you're assigned to for the hybrid days, we can do that. We just may need a couple of days to plan to make that happen. And building principals will be addressing those specific questions. Similar kind of question. What do the at-home days look like? Again, that will be remoting in. Kids will be remoting in. Some of those specials may be more asynchronous because of the way they're set up in the school. But the kids will be remoting in, getting direction from their teachers and getting assignments from their teachers. Teachers are available for the students who remote in, and teachers will be helping students who remote in as well as the students who are in classroom. Question about temperature taking. Our procedures, and again, the health department procedures recommendation is we have a list of things we are asking parents to do. One of them is temperature taking. If your child is sick, we require that you keep your child home. and then remote in, even if it's your day to be in. But we are asking our staff and we are asking our parents to do daily temperature checks. We will send out reminders for that as well. And that information will also on our website in terms of what the checklist of things each day. Question about buses. We can't get 6 feet of social distancing on a bus. No, we can't. The recommendation is for 48 on a bus. There's a certain way that we load those buses to minimize student contact, keep kids, family members together in seats. And those are the guidance that we're following from the health department in Chester County. Someone said, will the results of anybody picking 2.0 versus hybrid be made public? No, we are not. We're not going to make those public for, that's up to the parents to give us that information between the principals and the parents. Those were the ones that came in before. And a couple others, let me see here. Some question about if enrollment decreases in the cyber classes, is there a potential for class change or change of a teacher? There is a very remote chance of that. We are doing our very best. A lot of this will depend on what our survey data looks like next week. But my guess is that the cyber classes probably are not going to change those teachers, and those are teachers that are already developing relationships for that. Some of the questions about meals. Yeah, all the meals, we have procedures in place for picking up the meals. They are not going to be walk through the lines. They are scaled back box meals, and then we'll send out more information as to what will be served on those. For people that are on the free and reduced lunch meal program, they will be also delivered, and that will continue throughout as we go to hybrid as well. Michael, are there other? I see a bunch of things in the chat. Is there things in the chat? Those are the questions that I had received prior to the meeting today to go through.
Yes, there are a number of questions in the chat. Please forgive me if I repeat one that you've answered, but we can start. For people not ready to return and concerned about returning, only to have to go back to virtual, or people now able to shift to cyber, asking for those who have expressed concerns in various social media groups.
Okay, so that question is, can people go into cyber if they don't want to do remote or the hybrid? We will look at those on a case-by-case basis, and if there's some changes in your schedules or things to do that, we can make those, but we'll look at those on an individual basis. That was not something we put in the survey because there is with staying remote, there is a cyber option there, and then there's also cyber. But if there's a change in some of the specifics at home and you need a more flexible schedule, we can take a look at that.
Okay, can students change from cyber to remote and not in hybrid?
Yes.
Okay. Will students have their same teacher and same classmates if they do virtual only?
If they choose to just stay in remote, they will be assigned to the current class that they're in now. Yes. If they're in cyber, obviously they're assigned to the class in the cyber school right now.
Okay. Are we able to change which groups, A or B, to accommodate parent work schedules? And if so, how do we do that?
That would need to be, again, looking at that case-by-case basis with the principals once we get the survey data back. They are the ones that have to schedule the buildings, and I don't know how much wiggle room we'll have with that. We are trying to keep families together, however.
Is it possible to choose to go back to remote after the kids start hybrid?
Yes, you can. And in fact, if kids are out sick, their only way to log in would be remote. So yes, but that is something that we just want to know if that's going to be a permanent change, because that is going to change the number of students in the classroom on either the A or the B day.
If students stay in remote 2.0, not the cyber, and not return to the hybrid model, can students come back to school if regular full-time attendance happens in the future?
Great question. And if we are to the point where we can bring them all back, I say bring them all back. Yes, we would be able to do that. At that point, we would probably have to send out more information to parents as to why we're doing it. My guess is that positive case counts would be extremely low at that point, or there is a vaccine, or there's a treatment at that point, and that we would then we'd have more information to share from the health department for everybody. But yes, we would accommodate that, and that's something we would communicate if and when we get to that point.
Okay. Let's see, where was I here? If we decide to stay remote, will there be more asynchronous sessions, or will they get the same work and attention as the hybrid children staying home on their home days?
There will probably be slightly more asynchronous, again, in some of the classes, depending on how that's structured. But for the most part, teachers are going to be teaching a curriculum, 2 kids in class and 2 kids on a remote link. So they are getting the same lessons presented. So for the most part, that is not going to change significantly. However, depending on some of the lesson types, and I used phys ed as an example, it's going to be difficult to zoom into those classes if the kids are outside. So that may be more asynchronous.
Okay. If I choose 5 days remote initially, can I switch to hybrid once I feel ready?
Again, yes, I think we responded to that one. We just need to give the principals a few days notice so that they can schedule that and make sure that we have space in those A or B schedules.
If my child is on an IEP and eligible for 4 days, does he or she go in all 4 days the first week, or wait until the hybrid session starts?
Will they go in all 4 days that first week? I don't know that we have done all the detail on that yet, so I will make note of that, and maybe we can have an answer for that for the Monday session.
Okay. When a student has to remote in, how long do they need to stay online and in front of a screen?
That will again depend on the teacher and the lesson. I think that's going to be up to the classroom teacher and the lesson design.
What happens during the first 2 weeks for kids that stay virtual?
First two weeks they stay virtual. They would be all remote. They would just be remoting in for their lessons.
Okay. In week 1, what will students who choose to stay remote do? Just remote in on Wednesday?
If they're going to, well, the first 2 days that we do this, the priority, the first 4 days, if I go back to that calendar, first 4 days, the priority is for the students in school to go through the protocols in school and in class. So if students are choosing remote only on those days, they are most likely not going to have assignments until that Wednesday. But I will make note of that to clarify that.
Okay. Hi. Now my daughter is going to cyber school. If we move to remote school, does she have to go? Does she have to go school, and can she continue learning online, because we don't want her to go back to school before a vaccine?
So I guess that question, Michael, has been answered. If they want to keep a child out in remote learning, they can do that.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Who will be leading the remote learning when the students are not in the classroom? Their same teacher? Will they feasibly be able to teach the remote children and the in-person students at the same time? And I think that's how some of our pilots going on right
Yep.
now.
Yeah, we have some teachers that are working through that. And again, reaching out to many of these school districts that have already done that, they have found that they are able to do it, and they have. I will say this with reservation: they've done it successfully. Not that it is the great and best way to go, because I will tell you that none of these models are good. This is not the best way to teach kids. What we're currently doing, we have a lot of kids struggling. We have a lot of kids thriving. We go to a hybrid. We'll probably see some of the same kinds of things. Some kids are going to struggle. Some kids are going to thrive. And it is not the best way to do any of this stuff, but we have reached out to many of these school districts and schools at all levels, and they have found a way to successfully implement teaching kids both in person and at home. And we are getting some lessons learned from them. They're 6 weeks ahead of us, so they are the experts in the country. They have 6 weeks under their belt in teaching hybrid. So we're learning from them as well.
Where will students eat lunch?
Students will eat lunch in cafeteria. So we do have cafeterias set up, again, social distancing, 6 feet apart. So we are planning to use the cafeterias. For places where I think most of the schedules are done and teased out with how we get everybody in cafeterias at different times. If there needs to be some overflow areas, that would be additional rooms or an additional room. That seems to be more of a problem at middle school and high school than it is at elementary, though.
And the ACP option, that will still be available, correct?
Yes.
Can we first go remote only and then change mid-November to hybrid? And again, I think you've addressed
We've
that.
addressed that, yes. Yeah.
Can you clarify for the group who determines the distance requirement? And I think you answered that as well.
That's health department, yes.
Right.
Yep.
When will the bus schedules be sent out?
Those will be coming out probably the week prior to we start this. They are working on those now. And as soon as we get information when they'll be released, they're going to be available, I think, through the parent portal. But we'll send information as soon as we know when those are ready.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's an important point. They do not send those through the mail anymore. They are available on the parent portal.
Yeah, but we'll have to let people know they're available once we put them in the portal.
Right. Does any IEP get to come 4 days a week in person? I guess IEP students will.
Yeah, IEP students, again, I would say most of those IEPs, as we look at learning support, there are some that might just have some, if we can address it in the 2 days that they are there, they would not. But again, we'll have more details about that on Monday. But there is a good majority of our students with IEPs that will be coming 4 days a week.
What will the transition look like for cyber students moving to hybrid? Will they have time to know who the teacher is and what supplies they might need to have ready so that they feel part of the class and transition it as smoothly as possible?
Yeah, like any time during the year, it's pretty common for us to get get kids moving in and joining our classes. Teachers do an amazing job with just getting them acclimated to the classroom. So we will make those transitions as smooth as possible.
What are the protocols if a student is diagnosed with COVID? Is there any type of contact tracing notification procedure developed? I think you addressed that.
Yep, we do have that developed, and that is through the Department of Health with contact tracing.
When students are remote, will they actually be teaching, or will it be as it was in the spring with one meeting in the morning and lots of free time? And I think
yeah, they'll be teaching. And I think we heard a lot of that from parents last spring. We did make adjustments to the remote learning model, and it is much more synchronous. And we would still plan on that. In fact, to the point where some people have communicated to me it's too much screen time now.
Another IEP question related to which kids come 4 days. I think Monday night you will get into detail on that.
Yes, and I don't know if Leanne Ranieri, our Director of Pupil Services, is on the link.
I believe she is. Hold on one second. Yes, she is.
Can you unmute me?
You're
There,
unmuted.
there you go, Leanne.
Okay, thank you.
Want to
Yes.
address some of the special ed questions?
I can, thank you. Yes, for our students that are coming 4 days a week, it will be kindergarten through 12th grade, all of our learning support students. And our emotional support students will also be coming 4 days a week in secondary. All other special education students will be coming 5 days a week.
Okay.
And again, we'll have more detail and more question and answer on that for Monday.
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry, fun. Does anyone who has an eye? Okay, so that's another eye. With kids getting sick in the middle or high playing school sports, but have siblings in elementary, what is being done besides the 6 feet of distance?
So kids if they get sick,
And they have elementary siblings.
and they have siblings. So if there is, I'm going to assume that they're getting sick with COVID-19, not just sick. I mean, there's lots of kids can be sick without having coronavirus. But let's assume that's what that question means, Michael.
Yes.
If the family members, that is all part of that contact tracing. If there is a high school student that is sick, and any members of those families have come in contact with that person, they would then have to quarantine.
Okay. Do you have any concerns with special area, subject area teachers teaching multiple cohorts, that the chances of exposure across cohorts would increase and the likelihood of the whole school closure as opposed to a classroom quarantine could increase? So
Yeah, you have and then you have teachers that are teaching multiple classes. You have special area teachers at elementary. You have all teachers at the middle and high school where they have multiple kids coming in. At the secondary level, we're trying to address some of that with a block schedule, so we have fewer transition times. So it takes 2 days to get through an entire schedule. So we're doing those are CDC recommendations. We are trying to do the best we can to keep the cohorts together. We have cleaning procedures between, if we're moving in and out of rooms, for example, cafeteria spaces, we're cleaning those between, so there's additional time between those. If people are moving in and out of a special area room, we're cleaning those in between. So we have protocols in place for that. Will it increase the chances? I don't know. I mean, there are, again, schools have been doing this since the middle of August. They have not had significant outbreaks, nor have they had a significant shutdown. So as long as we are following our cleaning and our safety precautions, I think it gives us our best possible chance to keep schools as open as long as we possibly can. If we get people that are getting sick for reasons other than coronavirus, just being out sick and trying to staff our buildings, I will share that I do have some concerns about that as we get deeper into the flu season. But the alternative then is going to be to go into a remote format or a virtual format.
okay. When one child's classroom quarantines due to a positive case, does his brother's class quarantine as well?
Probably not if the brother is not tested positive, but that would be up to the Department of Health to determine that.
Okay, and the next question you answered, will children bring their iPads to school? Yes, they will. What will lunch look like? I don't know if there's anything more we want to say about lunch at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to use the cafeterias to come in and use those, but they're going to be social distance apart. Not a lot of kids in there, so it's going to be a couple of rotations in there.
Okay. Another question, question related to temperature checks. Will they be done upon entering the classroom? That's not our
procedure. Yeah, we are not doing temperature checks except for some of our low incident kids that may run some fevers.
Okay, and this kind of extension of that question, with the guidance that parents will have to self-report temperature and illness, we know there will be some instances where parents are not checking or being truthful. Why was a decision made to not require temperature checks at school?
Again, we are following the health department guidance and guidelines on that, and that is that's part of our protocol.
And one parent noted that a lot of these questions are in our updated FAQ. So, please take a look at that as well. Will students keep their same teachers? I think in just about every instance, will they keep their same teachers?
Yes, they will, unless, of course, if you're coming from cyber back into hybrid, you will have different teachers. But yes, you will keep your same teachers.
And will students with GIEPs follow a typical hybrid schedule of 2 days a week in the building?
They're going to still follow the GIEP schedule. So whenever they're scheduled for their programs, that may be remote, or it may be in school, depending on what their A or B schedule is.
Are masks required at recess? Who will be ensuring students are social distancing? And for PE in the gym, will masks be required? Also, if there is a student who is excused from wearing a mask in my child's classroom, will other parents be notified of this ahead of time?
If students are being excused of wearing a mask, that's a medical reason. We would probably not be able to notify parents about that for some of the privacy issues. Are kids going to wear masks out at recess? We are getting some clarification on that from the Department of Health right now. The guidelines say that as long as you're 6 feet apart outside, you do not have to wear a mask. But we are getting clarification on that.
Okay, and I guess there was the other piece that was who ensures the social distancing is maintained.
Well, that's going to be up to the staff and up to the students. I know that some of the pilots, I saw some of the pictures from today as they're just showing kids what 6 feet looks like. Some teachers were using hula hoops and just making to practice on that distancing. So, but that will be up to us as a staff.
Okay, if we decide to stay remote with our will our kids be in the same group of hybrid students doing remote days? So that I guess if they're remote all 5 days, their class stays intact. So they'll just be working.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the same class. Just some will be in class and some will be at home. Yep.
Does exposure mean kids in the same class, bus, siblings? I'm trying to understand this question. Does exposure mean kids in the same class, bus, siblings in another class? I guess the question is, what constitutes exposure?
Yeah, well, exposure, the way it's defined with the health department, and I think we have this in one of our pieces on the website. It is less than 6 feet with 15 minutes or more of exposure.
Okay, if they can take their masks off for lunch when they are 6 feet apart, why do they need to wear them all day if they are 6 feet apart? I guess gets back to the exposure piece. Well,
it's exposure. You're trying to minimize the exposure, minimize the risk. Kids obviously have to take their mask off to eat.
Okay, I think we addressed this question too. What will students who choose to remain in remote do during week 1?
Yeah, we'll get some clarification on that.
Will principals be sending out additional details before we have to give notice of intent to stay in remote?
We have a lot of details up on our website. And if you go to on the main page, we've retitled that reopening of schools to return to hybrid. So if you go and click on that link, there was a lot of detail up there.
Will the schedule remain the same for remote learning kids once we change the hybrid? They'll have to comply with the new start times.
Yeah, there's new start times, and that's a good point, Michael, that question. Right now we have start times, I think, at 9 o'clock for elementary schools. Once we start transporting students, we have to move those times. We got to go back to these 4 tiers of times. So we have some schools that will start at 8:40, some schools will start at 9:10. And that is done because of our transportation schedules. We still have to get all of our students to and from school. Even though it's half the students, we are still transporting out across the district, have to cover the 75 square miles. We also are required to provide transportation to 147 non-public schools, and many of those buses are used for that as well. The bus protocol after each run, those buses are disinfected after each run, and that takes some time as well. So we need some time between those schools to make all of that happen. But we do go to that 4 tiered of times, 8:40 for some of the elementaries and 9:10, and that is also listed up there. The day is shortened by 30 minutes at the end of the day at all of our levels, and that is to provide some additional planning time for our staff. That is in order to juggle all this, provide feedback for kids, because they're going to need to provide feedback for some of the remote assignments that have come in each day, whether it's the A group or the B group. And we do meet the minimum 900 hours for elementary students, because we have additional hours. I think we have 1,062 hours, and by reducing that, it's about 32 hours less. So we still are above the 900 hours required, in providing some additional planning to help our teachers with the additional load they're going to have with 2 sets of kids.
Okay. On remote days, would students who attend ACP be able to ride the bus to the school to attend ACP?
Well, if they're coming in to attend ACP, I think the question is, if you're coming in to go to school, yes, and then stay for aftercare, you could do that. But I think that question is one I don't have an answer to. If you just need a ride in to get in for ACP, that I don't know yet, because I'd have to check with transportation. Most likely the answer for that is going to be no, because I don't know how we're going to be able to manage the bus loads, and if that's different on each of the days. But I will get clarification on that.
Okay. Will the nut-free tables still be available in the cafeteria?
Yes.
Will the kids or teachers have plexiglass barriers around their desks?
We have some plexiglass barriers. That is not done for everybody, because we are wearing face coverings and masks. For students that have a medical reason not to wear a face covering, we will have shields around them.
Okay. I think the next question is really going to be a school-based a school-based decision. The principals will communicate, but where are the details on how to notify the school if you intend to drop off by car?
That'll come from the principals.
And I think we addressed this one. Will all kids have to wear masks unless they medically cannot?
Correct.
If most kids are staying home for remote and cyber, would there be consideration to bring in other kids 4 days a week?
Well, the students that we are planning to bring in 4 days a week will be our special needs children. I guess that question means if there's enough people who still want to stay cyber, can we bring more kids in?
Right.
We are not planning for that at this time, because there are just so many other things we've got to plan and address to get this up and running.
Can you explain more about bathroom precautions? Shared faucets for younger kids could be tough to keep sanitized.
Yeah, bathroom procedures. There are bathroom protocols as part of our health and safety plan. In fact, we were having some discussions with the principals earlier today about that, that there's one person in the bathroom. So there's limited times. We are not putting multiple kids in there at one time. So that's something the principals and teachers are working on, bathroom breaks. There are water, all the water fountains are shut off in the schools, but the touchless, the ones that have touchless water cooling stations, those will be operational. And we do have water, bottled water for all of the schools as well. And students can bring their own water bottles from home.
What will be the expectations for families that travel out of state? Will the expectation be set that they stay remote for 14 days?
Well, again, that is a recommendation. That is not a mandate. So if people are traveling into any of the states that are on that Pennsylvania list, we would ask that you adhere to that and do your 14-day quarantine, and then that would be, you would be remoting in for those days for school.
Will there still be future checkpoints to move to remote hybrid from cyber?
Yeah, there will be other checkpoints along the way. As we said, this is one of them. But as we watch the trajectory of the virus and we watch how we manage this next phase, as we come up to those times, we'll inform people.
Okay. What will be the expectations for families that? Okay, I think we got that one. Will the school require children to be vaccinated once a vaccine is available?
Well, that's a great question. I don't have an answer for that. And I don't want to get into a big legal piece about all that and what Pennsylvania is as a state. But when the vaccination comes out, if there was a mandate to get vaccinated, that's something we'd have to address. But Pennsylvania is an opt-out state where parents can opt out from those vaccines. So that will be beyond my pay grade in terms of how that works out with the governor and the legislators and the Pennsylvania State Department of Health.
Okay. If children in remote learning in my children's class do not wish to be in person and choose to stay fully remote, okay, we answered that question. We're not planning to extend the number of days in at this point for if the space exists, because
correct.
Right. Does bring them all back include kids in cyber? I guess it means when.
Hey, and I'll tell you, if we're to the point where we can bring everybody back and we don't have to worry about this virus, I would happily bring everybody, cyber, any charter, anybody back. It would be a great time. So when we say bring everybody back, obviously the first group is going to be the hybrid kids. But at that point, that would be another one of those transition points, and we would have to send information out and know who's coming back and how are we going to operate cyber. At that point, that may require us to transfer some teachers if we have a large exodus out of cyber and we have a large influx and we need more classroom teachers in the brick and mortar. So that's a little more complicated to do, but I'd be happy to do it if we're at that point where there's no virus and we're bringing them all back. I welcome that problem.
Okay. There's another question about consideration for additional days if space exists. So I think we've addressed that. And if the student has an IEP, that's something that I guess will be addressed more in detail Monday. Are there quarantine requirements? Okay, we've talked about that. If we decide to stay remote, will classroom teacher change? I think the answer to that was no.
Same teacher, yeah.
Right. So does the bus driver make sure they don't exceed the number? Because I guess some might have multiple pickups and drop-offs. I guess who's making sure that
yeah, those are obviously drivers can't go above their numbers, and that is all being organized with our transportation office and Crafts or On the Go Kids, our two bus contractors.
I think we've addressed this one. Will kids eat lunch in classrooms 6 feet apart? They will, if not wearing masks during lunch. I think most of them will be in the cafeterias.
Correct, yes. Yep.
Okay, if when we send our kids back after hybrid has started, what is the procedure for getting them the safety protocol training? Will they need to spend 2 days in the building before they can go back? So this is people who choose later on. How do we bring them up to speed?
I don't have a good answer for that. If they choose later on, we would have to set up probably a session, but I don't have particulars on that. We can make that a question that we can address.
Okay. And can info be given out to parents, I guess, regarding another an option other than ACP? I guess a child care option other than ACP.
Well, parents can have, I mean, there's other child care providers in the community. Child's Place is the one that, that services our schools in our schools. We do not have multiple service providers. We don't have the space. But I know the YMCA is running programs out there, and there are other child care providers, but that would be up to each individual parent to decide that.
Okay, and what are the actual school hours for elementary? That's on the website, I believe.
They are on the website. Yeah, they are. Well, they're up on the website for the elementary hours. They start at 8:40. I think there are 4 schools that start early. I think it's East Goshen, East Bradford, Exton, and Glen Acres, I believe. And then the other schools, the rest of them are starting at 9:10.
And this question is, why eat in the cafeteria instead of the classroom?
Cafeteria is a large space. It's got very high ceilings in there. We can social distance kids 6 feet apart. We think it's good to get kids up out of that seat that they're going to be in for a good part of the day in those classrooms. But we can safely do that. We worked our guidance with the Department of Health. Our facilities department has scheduled cleaning in between those sessions. So we believe we can do that safely. We believe it is it's appropriate for kids to be in there.
Okay, there's another question about temperature checks and the 14-day quarantine, which I think we've addressed. If we did not initially opt out of busing, can we do that now?
Yes, that again will be done and coordinated with the building principal. You don't have to officially opt out right now. But again, the principals are going to want to know who's planning to drive regularly, so that they can do the. It's more the drop-off area, not so much for the busing piece, but it's more for the receiving of kids who are driving.
Okay. Are 504 students with 504 plans also being considered for additional days?
At this time, we are not considering the 504 students for the additional days.
Okay, and will ACP be available for both the remote days and Wednesday, which I think the answer is yes on that.
Yeah.
Will they be on the same schedule they are presently following, or the same schedule as the school? Are they changing their schedules?
For the kids in remote? Or is that for cyber kids?
Yeah, so, well, will the ACP be changing their schedules when our kids' schedules change when we go into hybrid?
Good question. I'm making an assumption they're going to have to probably rotate toward our schedules. So they may be a little bit different, but we'll get some follow up on that one for the ACP.
Okay. If a teacher tests positive for COVID and the class has to quarantine, can that teacher continue to teach remote if feeling well enough to do so?
Short answer is yes. How we make that happen, I don't know. Because if the teacher is remote and the kids are in class, we need someone to cover the class.
Okay. And there's another question about the remote hybrid teacher. It will be the same as they have now. What is considered a cohort? Is it just a class, Will more than one class in the cafeteria, will be more than one class in a cafeteria, and does that make the cohort larger? What is
Well, yeah, a cohort is, I mean, it could be a class, it could be a team. It all depends on how that contact tracing goes. Can that expand? Yes, but again, as long as we're doing the 6 feet of social distancing, and the Department of Health, they're going to do the investigation on the contact tracing. They will determine how big that cohort is based on their investigation. So typically for us, it is primarily a class at elementary, because we're trying to keep those kids together as much as possible in their with their classes. That becomes the cohort.
Okay, this is kind of a two-parter here. We're entering flu season, which has similar symptoms. Will the class, school shut down every time someone has respiratory symptoms until the sick individual tests negative for COVID?
Well, I would say that a short answer is I don't know what that's going to look like. Again, the schools that have opened have not had those issues with major shutdowns, but we'll see how the flu season is. I don't have a good answer for that one.
Okay, and the second part of that question is, will local college students be allowed in as student teachers, since there's high incidence or higher incidence of COVID cases in the college communities?
We have had student teachers, and we have student teachers working with many of our teachers now. If any of them have come in contact with someone who has tested positive, we have asked them to quarantine. We have had a couple do that, but they have to follow the same procedures and protocols that our staff does.
Okay. Will kids need to bring supplies back and forth to and from school? I think we addressed this earlier, such as crowns, glue sticks, especially for for elementary.
Yep, they'll need to do that, and we'll have more information from the principal's level about that as we get closer to the day.
Okay. What kids won't be within 6 feet of each other at recess? I guess it's really more of a comment or a statement that masks must be worn.
Yeah, and we're working on clarification with that, to get clarification on that.
We have some appreciation for the time taken to do this. Will there be glass dividers between seats? Not as a rule.
No, not as a standard rule. No.
Okay, another thank you. How are teachers? A couple thank yous. How are teachers feeling about being back in the classroom?
Well, teachers, I will tell you, are working harder than ever. They are feeling a lot of stress with the current model. They are doing, I think, an amazing job making connections with students and planning. It's been very hard, particularly for the younger kids, the kindergarten and first grade students. In fact, I was talking with a couple kindergarten and first grade teachers earlier today. They're just kind of getting over that time where they've made these connections with kids, and how they've been very expressive remotely. It's going to be a juggle and a challenge for them. We've worked with a large number of our teachers the last 3 weeks to try to tease that out. I think the pilot teachers that are working today, a couple that I've talked to follow up with, they were more anxious until they did the pilot, when they found out that yes, it can work and they can still keep those connections, and it's kind of exciting to see the kids in the class. But that's not all 960 teachers. So they are very nervous, they are very anxious, but they are very excited to see kids. Some of them want to hug the kids. I said, don't hug the kids, that you violate social distancing guidelines. So that will be very, very challenging. But like parents and administrators and teachers and bus drivers and instructional assistants, we all want to do the best we can for the children in our schools. And we're all very anxious and nervous about any next phase in this, because none of us have ever had to do it. As I said earlier, the experts in this are the school districts that have been doing it for 4, 5, and 6 weeks. Some of them are to the point where they're planning, if they ever have to go back to virtual, they're kind of used to the hybrid model. They're nervous about going back to virtual. So we have teachers who are nervous because they're getting used to the virtual. And that first couple of weeks was really difficult to get off and running because they had to play tech support in many cases. But now it's a switch for us. So depending on where you are, whether it's Westchester or whether it's Allegheny County or whether it's Center County or Lancaster County, and you're in or you're not in, wherever you are is the comfort zone, albeit only 4 or 5 weeks. And wherever you're headed is the anxiety zone. And we had to do it last spring, we had to do it this fall, and we will do it again. So that's kind of a long answer to that question. I don't want to say, yeah, all the teachers feel great, because I think they're all nervous and just feeling overwhelmed and overworked, as many of us are on this link, trying to juggle and balance as parents as well with kids at home. So, but I think we're all ready for the challenge, and we want to do the best that we possibly can. And I believe our teachers feel that way too. They really want to see the kids. They want to do the best that they can for the kids. And they don't want to fail the kids, and they don't want to fail the parents' expectations for students to continue to learn.
Okay. Next question, could lunchroom have plexiglass between seats? That's not our plan at this point.
Not our plan, but we can circle back and check on that. But we are doing the 6 feet of social distancing, so we do have the social distancing expectations in there.
Okay, I'm going to jump down here because this is kind of a related question just popped in. How will kids who need to buy lunch exchange money and put in their personal codes? All those pin pads will be touched by many kids. That's a great question.
Yeah, I believe the cafeteria is setting this up. I don't know if John Scully is on this link, as there's no money exchange taking place for this. But we'll clarify that for the cafeteria FAQ.
Okay. And there was another concern about the kids bringing all their materials back and forth.
Yeah, they're going to need to do that. So
Yep.
that'll require some planning and well, we got to keep them in good shape, because if they've got to take some books back and forth, that we might have to amp up our phys ed program a little bit. Get some more exercise and strength training for the kids.
If we wanted to remain remote for a few weeks, would that be okay? Where we could just say, actually, I just lost my place here. Sorry. Would that be okay? Where would we just say what date we plan to go back to the hybrid schedule? I guess that would be the principal. They would inform a couple days in advance.
Yeah, the schedule is up. It's up on the website. If you go to the return to hybrid section, there's an elementary schedule up there. But principals will be sending reminders prior to that October 19th day.
Okay, but they may want to stay in remote for a little bit longer, and so I guess the question is, will the principal is the person to contact when they're ready, and just give us some notice to make.
Correct. If they want to swing back, that's not something we can just get a call at 4 o'clock and start the next day. We do need to make sure we have the space and plan, and make sure the transition is smooth.
Right. And I love this question. I've got to ask it. It's a great question to end on. And it's any chance of snow days this year?
Oh, here's my thought. First of all, one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my first year as a superintendent was a snow day. I would love to have that as my hardest thing I've ever had to do for this year, because I feel like we have been in a snow day since March 13th. But to answer the question, will there ever be snow days? We have actually applied to the Department of Ed this year for what are called flexible instructional days, which means if we get a snow day, that we automatically go into a remote learning, a virtual day, kids log in, teachers log in, and we do not have to make up the day when we do that. We're allowed 5 of those. So if we are in a hybrid model or all in, and a snow day is coming, and you get a message from me the night before saying we are going to be in a virtual day, be sure to log in tomorrow because school's going to happen. It's going to be a remote day. If we get more than 5, then we can't use those. So as long as we're under 5, we do have the ability this year to not have a snow day and end us later in June. We go beyond 5, then we'd have to make up some of those days. But yes, good question. I would love to have that as my biggest problem this year, but I don't know that right now that's not going to happen.
All right, and I think that's it.
Well, Michael, thank you for managing the chat room, and we are near the end of this hour and a half session that we had designated. I hope we were able to answer many of your questions. Some of the ones that we don't have answers to, we will get responses to. If you send information on our reopening email, the reopening email website that is it's up on the website, we will get back to you and respond to those. We are trying to keep up with those as they come in. As we see them becoming more frequently asked, we will add those to our FAQs that are up on our website. I know it is really difficult as a parent. And my wife and I are both working full time and trying to juggle our schedules with our children. I know how difficult it is. I know the stress. And if your households are like ours, sometimes we're all kind of nipping at each other because it is not easy. And just know that this is temporary. This is not going to be life forever like this. It is temporary, and we will all get through it. Make sure you give your kids lots of hugs because you might see them struggling. They need love more than ever from the parents and from our teachers. And together, if we do that and let them know we're here, someday when we're all dead and gone and they're talking about their grandparents about the great pandemic of 2020, and they were 8 or 10 or 9 years old and they remember what it was like, it'll be a great story that they survived it. And they did it because of the love and care they got from their parents and from their teachers. So I thank you for all you're doing. And again, if you have questions, please reach out to your building principals, your teachers, or me, or any of our administrative team. We're all here to help, and we'll get through this. And at the other end, we'll be perhaps more creative with our approach to public education. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a very safe and restful weekend.